So he goes, what's your name? I said, Samson. Slap. I told you, anything we ask you say, sir. It's like crying. He said, you're going to school. I said, no, I'm not. And he lifted me off the breakfast table and opened the front door and threw me out on the balcony. When I looked up there and I was sitting on the floor, I immediately thought, nah, I'm not staying here, I don't like it. And I reached into the bag, pulled it out, pressed the doorbell, rushed straight at him and stabbed him. Multiple times. It's got to be the only crime I've never regretted. And that's the start, probably, of...
The criminal.
He goes, look, Samson, we've got to put you in another children's home. We're not going to send you, we can't send you to prison. They actually said...
They tried not to.
They tried not to. But I went, no. I wanted to go to young prison early.
Why?
I didn't want to go to the thought of children's homes. I met Chris Eubank, was the first roommate I ever had. He was in Stamford House.
You were in and out for 40 years. That's 40, 4 decades of being in prison. It's not always like a walk in the park, is it? If you get on the wrong side of somebody, your life could be hell.
I think it's Ella, the kamikaze pilot.
Yeah.
I hope to die. So you're dangerous, man, if you don't want to live.
I love this so much. That's a bit better.
Yeah.
We couldn't see your beautiful face before.
It wasn't so beautiful 2 months ago.
So, Samson.
Yeah.
Welcome to the New Mind. I'm gonna thank Liam for sending you my way, because you've just done his show, and he sort of said, "Look, I've got this guy for you. I think he's got a great story," and so I know that's put you on the spot already, because now you're like, "Damn, no," but it is a good story, and it's a real life story, and it's got so many twists and turns.
Yeah.
You really have been in and out of incarceration since you were 10.
Yeah.
So best part of 40 years you were in and out.
Yes.
There's stories of addiction, stories of obviously prison stories that we won't go massively into, because Liam's done a lot of that with you, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But also a lot of abuse and, sort of traumas growing up.
Yeah.
The reason I wanted to bring you on, and I was interested in sharing your stories, because there's been so much growth recently, and you've got so much, I think, awareness of self, but also just such a fun personality. So for someone that's gone through what you've gone through, you have definitely not stayed in the dark. You are now firmly in the light, and I kind of want to share the journey with everyone.
Yeah.
Now, remember that my listeners will not have heard your story before, so we're going to weave in and out of the different elements of your life, but I'd like to start right at the beginning, because it's not been an easy life, has it?
Fair to say, Ella, in the beginning of time, I wouldn't say my household with mother and father and 2 sisters was real happy. It wasn't a happy childhood before I went into care. Like, to witness dad hitting mum, didn't really like it. Was a bit of a mummy's boy. Things became apparent in later life as to why my father was that way with my mother, but you don't condone violences against ladies anyway. But then I used to witness it firsthand while I was sleeping. I used to expect him to be hitting her at certain times of the night, and I used to creep up and listen outside the bedroom door, and then burst open the door, hoping by opening the door it would stop. So that's how that started. And then one of those, my mum was probably at best described as a housewife, cooking his meals, and he goes to work as a plumber. Very soft-natured, my mum, loved by everyone. And then she rebelled at around about the age of 10, when I was about 10, and she started going missing and drinking out in the bars in Queensway and Bayswater and West End, and go missing, and then be knocking the door at 2, 3 in the morning. And my dad and my sisters, one of my sisters, used to say, don't open the door for her, lock her out. It was the first time she'd ever really run away, so to speak, and wasn't living under my dad's restrictions on her, so to speak, if you get what I mean. But I always used to sneak up and open the window for her, so she gets in and then she come into my bedroom. And then he'd wake up and He wouldn't say nothing to me, my dad, but he would say, you let her back in. Anyway, we used to go regularly to Barry Island, which is Butlins. That was the best holiday that I ever went to up till today, really. I know, but I will be travelling soon. I'll get my passport after being out 5 years now.
If you think Barry Island was good, you're gonna go mental when you travel.
But I don't hold. We went there 3 or 4 years running during that young, early childhood, and they were arguing a lot during that time, like I've just explained. And we had a godfather, Mr. Hall, who decided to take us to Butlins, Barry Island in Wales, where my mum was originally from, Newport Gwent. And they were going to follow shortly after and meet us there and then sort out their differences whilst they were there. But they turned up a day later, next door Shally, started arguing and fighting straight away and left early the next day and left us there. But on the way back, my dad was driving his van, had a stroke, ended up in hospital. So my mum then took an overdose. So both were in hospital, and then we came back.
How old are you at this point?
10.
Just 10 years old. I mean, before you've even really got into the story, there's some big stressful events there already, isn't there?
Yes.
And so for the listeners, like, this is literally the first few minutes. So we can only imagine. Mind you, whilst you're taking that sip of coffee, I'm just going to move your mic down, Yammy, just because.
Yeah, okay.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's a bit better. We couldn't see your beautiful face before.
It wasn't so beautiful 2 months ago. I was looking ugly.
But yeah, so you've got these major stressful events already. I made you spit your coffee everywhere.
Don't worry about that. I've looked worse at her. Don't worry.
And, you know, so your mum and dad are both in hospital on the way back from a holiday.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Lovely godfather who was pro my mum, really. He was a landlord at a previous area that we lived in before. So he was a landlord where we was living in Ladbroke Grove. We moved to Lisson Grove. So at this stage, we're in Lisson Grove where my dad has the stroke and my mum takes an overdose. Yeah. So Mr. Hall takes us back to the flat, but whilst one of them are in hospital, I can't even remember which one, but they signed over, my dad was in a coma, and someone signed over us to no one to look after us.
Oh, God.
So then on that night, social services appeared at the door after a couple of days of coming back from Barry Island. We was with Mr. Hall, and they were saying, "No, you've got to go into the care of Westminster, namely a children's home, not so far from there, but in Westbourne Park, Brunel Estate." And I remember, never forget the screaming and shouting, and oh God, all the neighbours were out. Everything was pulling. We were refusing to go. Me and my sisters, one of my sisters, Jane, she was really crying loudly.
Were you crying as well?
I can't remember, but I know.
You just remember the sounds and just see it, because it becomes more of a sensory experience, doesn't it? It's like when you have a car accident, actually. You know, you remember the sound of the car accident and the flashing lights more than the detail. Is that how it sort of feels?
Is it numb? I'm numb to what I was. But 2 days prior to that, when we came back from Butlins, I did go to the hospital with Mr. Hall. I'm not sure if a social worker was there at that time, but we were still at the flat. And I looked at my dad in a coma, but I wasn't really caring about him. I was just worried about my mum. Well, they were lying in the same St. Mary's Hospital on Praed Street. But I can remember hiding behind the corner and just thinking, I didn't really like my dad. I suppose he was hitting my mum.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's understandable.
But I was really more concerned with my mother. But then, as I said, when we got taken in our pyjamas, in a car, from Lisson Green Estate to Brunel Estate, and remember being there at the front door of that children's home with the social worker late at night, cold night,
scary,
in a nightgown, and pressing the doorbell, and then me and my two sisters being welcomed into the children's home. As soon as I walked in, I wasn't happy.
Oh, do you know what? It's heartbreaking, actually, because we forget, you know, you're just a 10-year-old boy that's really, and we know, I mean, I've had a daughter, and, you know, 10-year-olds are still babies in many ways. And also their brain has only just started to fuse at the front. So their analysis is in a very underdeveloped state.
Yeah.
They can't analyse, they can't logicalise, they can't
No.
organise what's happening. And also the ego boundaries, that ability to separate and individualise, haven't even started to form yet. So
Yeah.
you still can't step out of self and observe and calm yourself. It's all very much about, this is happening to me, I am it, it is me, it is in me. And of course your brain and your body develop around those traumas, and that's like a fundamental trauma. Your mum's in hospital, your dad's in hospital, you've already witnessed lots of violence, and now you're in a strange place. Yes, you're with your sisters, but you're scared, you don't know what's going on. And although you might not remember it explicitly, as in like you don't remember every detail, your body keeps the score, your body holds on to the cellular mapping. So actually your body responds in that moment, and it's the beginning of disassociation and abandonment of self.
I know. I didn't take to it. My sisters took to the children's home much better than me, but we wasn't allowed to go and see our parents. There was a ban on that. They both got out, went back to where they were living at the flat. Not allowed to come and visit. And then it started, and going to school, getting on the 31 bus every morning to go to Quinton Kenniston Comprehensive School. But it was always my mum. I always used to, like, late at night, because there were boys in the classroom who had older brothers that drank in certain bars. Now, and they say, yeah, your mum was down there last night, my brother and someone's sister and older. And I used to sneak out the window at night. No, I used to sneak out the door. I used to come down from my bedroom, go down to the bottom, leave the mat on the door, because it used to self-lock if it wouldn't lock.
Right.
11, 12 o'clock at night, Ella. And then I'd walk from Westbourne Park down Chepstow Road into Bayswater, up to Queensway, and stand outside the bars waiting to see if I would see my mum.
And you're only a little boy still?
I was only, it looks like it was a long way from it. It was only down the road from that children's home.
But still you were tiny, weren't you? You said off camera when you were about 10, you looked about 4.
Yeah, I did.
You were tiny.
Yeah.
And just a tiny little boy just walking around trying to find his mum.
Yeah, I know. But I used to wait outside, but I never used to see her. And then I hear the next day that she might be going out the back way. She doesn't want to see you, but I never processed it properly, obviously, at that time. But then I always used to get picked up in the streets by cars, like ladies late at night, because obviously I must look too small to be out.
Yeah.
At 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, because everybody's sleeping in the children's home.
Yeah.
So they used to say, where are you? What are you doing? And they used to, lucky they were probably rescuers. And I used to tell them I'm in the children's, but I can't get caught, but then I used to get away with it a few times. The door would still be open. I pull the latch back, creep into my bedroom, and no one would know the difference.
Yeah.
But one time I got back, the door was locked. And by this time, the abuse of the manager of the children's home, I think, if I remember rightly, had already been underway.
Right. So
pretty much shut it and then grounded me. And then obviously I wouldn't be allowed out or anything like that. So
as soon as you got there, because the abuse was extensive, wasn't it? As soon as you got there, did the abuse start straight away?
No, I don't really blame the lady, to be honest. I think it was unfortunate that she called me into the office. I thought she was a decent lady, to be honest. She used to sing me songs and stroke my head and put me to sleep. And then one day she said, Sammy, listen, you're going to have to learn about the birds and the bees. You haven't got a father figure, but you need someone to talk to about those things, like if you start puberty and things like that. Remember, I was a late developer anyway, and I didn't start puberty until 17, 18.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know whether this is caused by what took place. But anyway, it started by talk to the manager, Joe Whiting, who had the premises, the manager's flat adjoining to the children's home.
Oh, okay.
So like the office would be there, but his flat would be there.
Yeah.
So then I said, okay then. And then it just started from there, like getting out the bath and touching and saying, oh, you should be really developing pubic hair by about now, 11, 12 or whatever.
So he started to comment on
little things, and then there was something wrong with my foreskin. I think it was too tight.
Yeah, which is quite a common thing for boys.
Common, didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, he said, "Oh, I'll have to bring you doctor's hospital to see if you can get circumcised." And I went down there and the doctor done something. I didn't know what it really meant then.
But it's usually because it's actually, it can become quite painful and get infected if it's not. So there is a reason for that. But the fact that he knew that, he had no reason to know that. Do you know what I mean? There's no reason that the manager of a care home should know whether your foreskin's too tight. The fact that he knew that was,
Never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Ella, that means then that after that, I'm now realising as I got older, that's what grooming means. You start with those little
That's
bits.
right. It's testing
and then it
phase.
leads to,
Yeah.
I'm helping you, trying to.
Correct. That's what people forget about the testing phase is what can I do and get away with it so that this person, if they say anything, I can go, oh, I was only doing this.
Yeah, and I brought him to the hospital.
Yeah. So now we've got an excuse that I've seen you and and that makes it harder then for you to think there's anything wrong with it as well because you've been to the hospital. So you're less likely to go, this is strange because actually you've been to the hospital, you've had a procedure done or someone's looked at you, a doctor.
So if I said anything.
Yeah. And also you're going to question yourself because you're confused now because actually there was a medical procedure.
But I already had a feeling though.
Well, you know, because our gut instinct will speak to us before our brains had a chance to compute it. That's why they call it a second brain.
I don't think I've told many others this, but they after that, then it became coming into the bedroom at night, like the boogeyman. I used to dread it, him coming in, and then it got to the stage where never know like intercourse of any kind because what happened was over a period of months and years, I was going to school crying sometimes. The girls used to ask me in school, what's wrong, Sammy? And my teacher, she's a nice teacher at my school, didn't really take kindness to me being in care. It weren't a lot of people in care at that time in the school.
No.
Now, Ella, then it got down to one day, he brought me down into the bedroom, his flat, through the dark stairs, like upstairs is my bedroom, but then he led me down a fire exit late at night.
That in itself is scary.
And then walking in there, and then him trying, he says, look, you can sleep here in the bed, but I started making like noises, like I didn't really, he goes, oh, don't worry about it, I'll bring you. So it never, I would say, even as bad as it is supposed it is to do that to a child or anyone for that matter of fact, I got out of it that way. So it was building up for about 9-10 months, I would say, probably, if I remember rightly. And then he quickly got me back upstairs to my room. But then I told someone and they said to see the deputy manager, a lovely lady called Glenys, who lived up on our landing and had her flat there too. And they brought me, knocked on the door one night, and they said, tell her what you told me, our older resident children. Right?
Yeah.
Someone that was at school with me, actually, but in bit older years, and was about to leave there. And then I told Glenys, and she looked shocked, and she was absolutely, she goes, well, I'm reporting this. And
how did you feel when she said that?
I thought that maybe I've got to protect her, that she's going to do something about it. I won't have to go through this again, and unable to resist and say no, and you know, keep it all inside me. Not that I processed it, but I looked at her as a kind of
like a mother figure,
and a helper, and somebody, because I remember her expression. She wasn't really happy at all.
Yeah.
But interesting that once she reported it, they did take it to Social Services Westminster. Yeah. Around a big table.
Yeah.
Social worker, mine, head of Westminster, whoever they were at that time, I remember their name. I ain't going to bother saying it. Imagine I saw him on the train one day years later.
Wow.
And he was still a horrible bastard.
Yeah.
But anyway, Ella, they were just tapping their pens on the table when I was explaining.
So you had to sit with all these big adults around a big table,
but
and you only like
a
boy.
It looked like no one never believed like what I just thought it was a waste of time. But they didn't say anything. I can't remember exactly, but I left feeling that
you didn't feel safe.
That I wasted my, like I wish I wouldn't have said nothing.
That's a horrible feeling because, you know, when kids try to stay safe and then someone either dismisses that or they have to go through another trauma, which is talking about something which is really scary and difficult, and then it looks like no one cares. What that does to the child is again, you won't compute this because your brain isn't ready to do this at this time. Your brain can't literally analyze this information. But what happens is, because the brain can't analyze it yet, this front bit's really important, Yammy. So the prefrontal cortex does analysis, logic, organization, planning, emotional regulation, creativity, imagination. If a child isn't heard and kept safe, what happens is that part of the brain can't process it, so it gets pushed down into the body. So the fear that you feel or the abandonment you feel, it gets mapped in cells in your body so that your body then is prepared for next time that it happens. And it's almost like we store up a military operation of cells that keep a cellular memory. So then when things happen later in life, the body is remembered, do this, do that, do this, do that. Numb out, fight, run, whatever it is, the body remembers it. And the child now believes they don't matter. And that's when they start to become people pleasers. Because if I don't matter, the only way that I'll be seen is if I keep pleasing other people. And I kind of believe very much that the abuse is one thing, but not being heard and not being kept safe is another, because then you have to be a people pleaser, or you have to be a fighter, or you have to run to find safety and to find what feels like a sense of comfort. So a lot of self-soothing behaviours, you know, all these things that then come into your life later on happen because of those early beginnings.
It makes a bit of sense.
Yeah.
Hey, but Ella, so I came back. All the other staff knew what happened.
Yeah.
He turned up the next day. He wasn't coming out of his flat, but then I realised that he got suspended. He was coming out with dark glasses on in the mornings. And I used to see him, but apart from the lady upstairs, the deputy, all the rest of the staff were treating me bad. And saying some and
like you were a troublemaker.
It's like I was a troublemaker. So then I started to withdraw, and then I started to get a little bit angry, and then I didn't want to go to school.
Yeah.
So then that one morning when it all started, I said I'm not going to school. And another member of staff, 6'5", David Fagg, and he said, "You're going to school?" I said, "No, I'm not." And he lifted me off the breakfast table with my school bag on, and opened the front door and threw me out on the balcony and shut the door. But I'll never forget it. When I fell on the floor outside, there was other kids who get the same bus or go not so far away to other schools. Two of them, didn't mean it, obviously, started laughing because it was, you know, what kids are like.
Yeah, because they don't understand
what's going on. So when I looked up there and I was sitting on the floor, I immediately thought, nah, I'm not staying here. I don't like it. And I reached into the bag, my Leeds United football bag, and I got the geometry set out, which was the only thing that was on offer, really, I suppose, which was probably lucky for him. But I was just thinking, I'm angry, but yeah, I'd always been a frightened little boy. But at the same time, I just reached for the compass that you draw the circles with in the maths and science classes. It's a little pointed instrument. And I just went in there, pulled it out, pressed the doorbell, but he came walking to the door like he was just going to. But nah, I rushed straight at him and stabbed him multiple times. But the injuries, not belittling the injuries, of course, but I don't really regret it anyway. So it's not worth pretending that I do, and I did.
Well, he was horrible to you.
I felt a sense of adrenaline when I rushed in there.
Yeah.
And I was poking him loads of times, but he was so big, he fell back down on the settee. But I managed to get outside the front door. But when I was running down the balcony to go and get the bus to go to school, I remember being on the bus with other kids and I was breathing, but I was celebrating.
Yeah, well, because for the first time in your life, you fought back. So, of course, you'd celebrate that. It was the first time you felt any sense of power. And for a boy, that's really important because it's the time, you know, you're 11, 12, I guess, at that point, are you? Or still 10?
No, 12.
About 12.
Yeah.
So around this time, even if puberty's not properly kicked in, a boy starts to have ego boundaries. He starts to individualise. He starts to recognise the sense of power. Testosterone is starting to form. So you took back power, and now with the adrenaline and the dopamine and all the other brain chemicals that are going, ooh, crazy, suddenly you're like, oh, I found my strength.
Yeah.
Samson. I found my strength.
It's got to be the only crime I never regretted.
Yeah. But it's the beginning of something that was maladaptive.
Okay.
It was the beginning of something because you weren't kept safe, because you were neglected, because you didn't have the love that you needed, because this man was abusing you, because people were treating you badly. It wasn't like the beginning of a happy life, was it? It was never going to end with bows and rainbows and, lots of happiness. I think what happens next in your life is understandable. So tell me what happened after you stabbed the man with the compass.
So I was in the classroom at school and the police came there to get me. Took me out of there, put me in an assessment centre for the night, appeared at Seymour Juvenile Court in Westminster the next day, and ended up in a secure prison for young boys under the age of 16, which would have been Stamford House, Scoldorp Road, and taken off the streets and put in an institution there for quite a few months or whatever.
How was that for you?
I was the smallest there. I used to cry every day. I never used to get no visits.
It's heartbreaking thinking about this little boy just... I know it's your story, but if you're zooming out and observing it, and because
it wasn't funny at the time.
No, because
I was lonely. It was sad. I never liked. Everybody else used to see their mums and dads, and I never used to see no one.
You were just so lonely.
I met Chris Eubank. Was the first roommate I ever had. He was in Stamford House. He was in the dormitory, but they put me in my age group of the block I was on. But they said I was too small to stay there, so I had to go in the age group below.
Oh, wow.
And a little bit of bullying took place and got slapped around by the staff a little bit. And then after a few months, they changed the charge to ABH, which was a smaller charge for what they were trying to look for. I nearly pleaded guilty to something more serious, but they didn't. They moved it to ABH and they brought it a year or so later. And I got allocated to another children's home, which was not far from the last one, but Harrow Road, Mozart Estate.
And also you've left your sisters because they were in the one that you've just left, haven't they? So now you're without any family because at least your sisters had been there. So now you're out without any family in a new... you've gone to the secure place. You're now in a new children's home.
Yeah.
And you're only 12 or 13 at that point. No, but
round about... Yeah, that would have been about 13 and a half.
Then, by 13 and a half, your life's already just been... Really, there's no stability. There's all this fear, all this anger. You're only 13.
I went to Mozart Estate in that children's home for about 3 or 4 months, and that's when the stealing started, because in the Mozart, a lot of, like my peers, my age group are much bigger, were already out there burgling. We support Mozart, and there was other previous children's homes and institutes that are surrounded by kind of middle class ghetto-y areas, but the rest of the surrounding areas of West London are quite rich.
Yeah.
So from a young age, it's taught that we only have to go around there to the west, to Bayswater, to Queensway.
That's where the good stuff is.
That's where the good stuff is.
Yeah.
So then a couple of the big boys were wearing their jewellery early on, certain types of clothing. And we used to sit out on all the benches, all the girls and boys, and go to the little blues parties and things. And then the older ones would take me out to burgle with them, and I'll be like, they say, you knock the door because you look innocent. And
yeah.
Because I don't know what it was, but I think back then, in certain areas, I'm not saying colour was a feature, but sometimes it really was.
Yeah.
That if you were black and you walked in rich areas, they'd phone the police straight away.
Of course, yeah. Didn't stand a chance.
Like that but with me.
Yeah.
And then I learned they got me into carrying buckets and sponges to knock on the door. Is there a car wash?
Got you.
As a con, really.
Yeah.
It really
you were
is.
a little hustler
Yeah,
straight
and
up.
Say, yeah, and if they didn't answer, you tell him and he gets in and you go in with him. But it's like pushing me through the windows quite early. I was terrified at first. Stroke between Oliver Twist and scared like Oliver, but developed into the Artful Dodger. But I was very, really scared. And then I just opened the doors to them. And
Is this your people pleasing phase as well, where you're starting to just say yes to everybody because you kind of want to fit in?
It would have been, and I wanted
You just want to
not
fit
be
in.
scared and
Yeah.
I'll show you that I'm not, but you
Yeah.
are. That kind of stuff.
You just want to fit in. You want to belong because you haven't got anywhere to belong. So you'll try anything.
Yes, I know. Then I didn't get arrested at that time, funny enough, for them 3 or 4 months. But I look back on Mozart as probably the bit I'm sentimental about the most with the kids there at that
Because you made
stage.
friends.
I made friends, but they came for me one day, the social worker said, look, you've got to go to a boys' approved school in West Grinstead, Horsham, Sussex, where you live there and all bad boys are there. I said, why? They goes, because you're coming back with goods every day and that. But I ended up there and stayed there for about 10 months, miles away. Again, not allowed no family visits, not allowed to go home to my. So I absconded from there.
Yeah.
And after about 10 months, again, feeling probably different from the rest. I remember the headmaster in that school describing me as an emotional displace.
What?
In front of the whole assembly.
I mean, God,
Because I
talk
used
about
to cry a
humility.
lot. Yeah. I was really small. But I used to get protected by a lot of boys as well, though. Still friends with some of them today, but I was a bit on the emotion. But I think it more to do with my mother, really, to be honest.
But, I mean, look, let's put this in perspective. You're saying you're a bit on the emotional side. You're a little boy that's got no family, no safety, no stability.
Yeah,
the fact that you cried a bit is not a bloody surprise, is it really?
Yeah. And then one day I absconded, went to live with one of my friends in that Mozart for about 3 weeks and was burgling every day. And then
that's where the habit begins.
And that's when we all got nicked, and I ended up going to detention centre, first prison, about 15 years old.
And this is where the problem starts, isn't it? Because although before that you were in children's homes and you'd been in the secure, now you're 15 and you're learning the tricks of the trade in the detention centre. You're starting to pick it up. But to be honest,
the lady, when I was in the courtroom, because it's the only time I've had co-defendants on court cases, really, throughout my whole life. I'm always arrested on my own, or others get off. But on this one, all 3 of us was there, but I was the smallest. They knew what happened in the children. I remember they sent everybody out of the courtroom and were discussing, 3 laid bench, an old lady in the middle, and they went behind the curtain or something and were discussing. And then I remember them coming out. They goes, look, Samson, we got to put you in another children's home. We're not going to send you. We can't send you to prison. They actually said.
They tried not to.
They tried not to. But I went, no. And the social worker's going, but you're still under a care rule. I said, I don't care. I'm not going back to no. I wanted to go to young prison early.
Why?
Don't know, because a couple of my friends had already done it, and I thought, but I didn't want to go to the thought of children's homes.
Well, they hadn't been a good experience to that point, had they? And maybe as well, you wanted to just feel like, because your friends had been there.
Yeah, then they're talking tough, and they come out.
Yeah, and you want to be like,
I wanted to come out and say, well, I've done a detention
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to Borstal.
Again, looking for something to belong to.
So I ended up, she'd come back out, the lady, decent, when she was a nice lady, really. She'd come back. She said, Samson, look, with reluctancy, I'm going to send you there for 3 months. We didn't want to do it, but there's nothing we can do. And I ended up there, the short, sharp shock. And that's the start, probably, of
the criminal.
The lifetime in prison.
Because as I said at the beginning, to remind those that have not heard your story before, because there will be some, you were in and out for 40 years. That's 40, 4 decades of being in prison. Now, I've spoken to you a few times, and I've obviously sat with you today. It's impossible to think that this cheerful, lovely guy in front of me has been in and out of prison for 40 years. I know recently you've managed to get clean from some levels of addiction that we'll talk about in a bit. But you just don't seem like the kind that's been in and out for 40 years. You're happy, you're chill. I said at the beginning, you're a really like bountiful personality. And I'm sure there's another side to you because I've only seen, one side. But considering abuse, considering in and out of prison, considering neglect, you're a really decent human being. And there might be other people that say, no, he's not. He's done this, this and this. But we've all got a flawed side and we all do things that we regret. But you're a good guy. And, as I'm listening to parts of your story, just to interject, I kind of want to just throw this in there. I've said it before, it's quite emotional because I see you now, but I think of you then as this little boy, this little lost soldier that's just trying to find his way in life. And, you know, there are kids that are going through this now where they are in and out of children's homes or in and out of care. They're not getting stability. They're getting abused. And we can't ignore the fact that this happens in people's homes or in children's homes or in institutions day in, day out, where little boys and girls are being sexually, physically abused, emotionally abused. And, you know, I kind of want to just bring to everybody's attention that this is real life. This isn't just a podcast story. This is real life, and this is happening today, and it's happened to you. And we must really hear these stories and be open-minded about the prison service. And a lot of crime is committed through boys and girls that are lost, not because they want to be bad. You're certainly the person that didn't want to be bad. You just wanted to fit in. And I wanted to just highlight that because I think we have a really sort of negative perception of crime sometimes, and we don't understand how to fully rehabilitate kids that are going through some difficult things. So 15, you're in the detention centre and you're probably learning some tricks of the trade in there for the short time you're there. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's because you couldn't smoke or nothing there. You have to march everywhere. But again, I was probably being protected by other boys. But 6 weeks felt like a lifetime then.
Yeah.
But then I got out. Detention centre was different to back then. It was different prisons, absolutely different. It was discipline and you get a slap and all that. But I got a few slaps from staff there, and they were liberty takers in reality.
Well, of course, power freaks. That's what they were.
I mean, from you can get off the van to walk into the detention centre, and they say, anyone of us that talks to you, you answer, sir. If it's a lady or nurse, you say, mom. I still do mom today, by the way. And they said, so he goes, what's your name? I said, Samson. Slap. I told you, anything we ask you, you say, sir. It's like crying. And then he grabbed the kit. He gave me the bed kit. He says, right, now run down there with that kit until you reach the dining hall down there. You reach down the other end, but there's a big sign at the other end saying, walk, don't run.
Oh, no.
Then you get another slap. Can't you read? The other kids are waiting down the other end. But it's funny. It's a bit, at the time, though, it's quite... but yeah, that was the start of it. And then I came out from that. A couple of months out. No relationships with ladies at that time. One, that was pretty close to for a couple of months. By that time, I wasn't in care no more. 16, I think they banished me when I came out of detention centre. They said, you're allowed to go back home with your mum and dad now. So it's freedom at last from institution. So
where did you go, though?
Back to where my mum and dad, before we went on holiday.
So you actually were still, at that point, have you got a reasonable relationship with your mum then? Or
yeah, dad's had the stroke, so he's paralysed.
Yeah.
So she's looking after him.
Wow.
But she's still having the odd drink now. He can't stop her.
Yeah. So it wasn't a happy relationship. She was kind of lumbered with him, I suppose, because he had no...
He loved her. In later life, I realised that, in fact, that
it was just...
The reason why my dad, even though it doesn't excuse it,
no,
is that we found out the day as my dad was dying, he confesses that he's sorry about everything to me and everybody. I was in jail at the time when he died. But he decides to tell my sister, who's a year younger, that the reason why I took out your mum because your dad is not me. Oh. So he held that right to he was a Navy man, but he was well disciplined, but he did everything to protect her right to the end, my mum.
So were you his? Or was
I was, yeah.
But she wasn't, your sister?
And that's why
you're so angry. Because he was in
foster care at 3-4. My dad went to prison for stabbing my mum in the hand. So I remember being in foster care as my youngest sister was born. So I got 1 year older and 1 year younger.
Yeah.
So that would have been because of that, I realise now.
So he just lost his temper. I mean, it doesn't excuse it, but he lost it.
He got off anyway. He went Brixton prison, but he got back out and then they took us back out of foster care. And even that foster care woman, I heard, she's horrible. My oldest, I used to always get Auntie Dots or something like that. Right. But I can't remember probably. I remember being in the garden there and she being horrible, but wasn't long there. And then went back home. That was in Ladbroke Grove, and then moved to listen, Green, but my dad, he confessed to that. So then later thoughts, I'm having not bad thoughts about my dad, but I'm having better thoughts about my dad, thinking that he still protected her for all those years, took her back because they met. He was in the Navy, her family had thrown her out, and then they met at the Welsh Docks while she was on the street. So in actual fact,
he saved her.
He saved her.
But he lost his temper. He treated her in a way that, you know, again, we don't excuse, but you can almost understand elements of his behaviour. Yeah, it's emotional dysregulation.
No one told no one nothing.
No, they didn't. So it was all hidden, and then everyone was just confused.
But really, he's got to be a man of decent dignity.
Principle.
Then, really.
Yeah, he had principle,
that he still protected her.
Yeah. And remember, this is old-fashioned days, because you're about what? Well, you won't say your age, but you're a little bit older than 25, let's say. So we're going back to the days where, you know, traditional values, principled, masculinity, you know, all these things that are now seen as negative, but actually he was looking after her and looking after a child that wasn't his. But she was still drinking a bit by the time you get out.
But I didn't know. When I came out from detention centre, I was, you know, excited that now I was come of age, that I'd done what most of the boys my age had done, been to detention centre.
You felt like part of the gang.
Part of the gang, and then carried on burgling. Had my first kind of relationship, but I still hadn't developed puberty yet. I was still quite small, but strong for my size. And then I got arrested in Rickmansworth in a Boy Scout kit with a bucket and a sponge, and it was a judge's house, because the older boy said to me, knock on the door. If they don't answer, then I'll go in, rich house. When I knocked it, someone answered. But then I thought, I said to him, it sounded a bit dodgy. So we walked back to the train station to go home. When we got to Rickmansworth train station, all the police was waiting there.
And this was did you say a judge's house?
It was a judge's house.
Oh, my life.
So we got arrested, brought to Rickmansworth, or wherever it was, the police station, got bail, because you could them days, for burglary. And then I was out a couple more weeks and got arrested in London and ended up in Latchmere and Ashford youth offenders, and they joined both cases together at St Albans Crown Court, and I couldn't even see over the dock then. I must have been about 16. And they let the big geezer go that I was in the dock with, and gave me 3.5 years, 4 years for burglary.
Oh, no.
He said, you're one of the maturest Justice Drake. Yeah, he done, my social worker went in the box and said, there's nothing we can do for him no more. And they had a medical report saying that I was 16, but I had a bone structure of an 8-year-old.
So you were tiny?
Yeah. But the judge, the social worker, she'd done it horrible. But my sister was in the court. She was crying in the gallery. Because then them days in that year, 82, 83, you know, it was unheard of to get so long for burglary.
Yeah.
And boys my age were getting 4 years for armed robbery.
Wow.
So I went straight to Aylesbury in the deep end with all the bad boy lifers and murderers and killers. I was in the deep end again from that time. So then I was away in Aylesbury, learnt my trade, learned how to stick up for myself, learned how to fight, learnt the rules of the so-called fake life of that life, and spent about 3 years there. Come out when I was 19 and went through it all over again and continued to go through it all again.
So then you kind of spend your life in and out of prison, and
a few weeks out, but long periods in.
Have you been into most of the prisons?
Most, yeah.
Yeah, so you're well known within the services, if you like.
Yeah.
What's that like? I mean, just from the perspective of, like, as you say, you've been clean for a while now, a few weeks, and you know, you're doing some really good stuff with your life. You're trying to pay it all forward, but ultimately you've been institutionalized from a very, very young age.
I know.
And yet you feel like quite a relaxed energy to be around, and you feel like a fun energy. How have you done this? How have you maintained this sort of positive outlook when all you've ever known is the other side of a locked door?
I was the same in there most of the time, but I was just running around I spent about 37 years out of 40 actually in custody. until the 5 years I've been out now, trying to pick up the pieces and make amends and pass on my experiences and being a decent role model.
Yeah, you are a decent role model.
So the longest I was out in those 40 years was 5 months in one go. The rest of the times was 5 weeks, 3 weeks. I wasn't the greatest criminal, was I? They're saying I was a professional burglar and that I stole a tiara and that off the Saudi Arabian princess, and they valued it at about £1 million.
Wow.
The Royal Albert Hall, but I didn't really get no money for it. I just wasted it all. But I left a big handprint on the window. But,
bless
so I wasn't really
you.
the greatest.
No, you...
Definitely. But,
I mean...
and then I've been running around, coming out, and then the drugs came, Ella. And habitual, not really seeing the significance of my actions.
No.
Really burgling people, ruining dough. I've never really harmed anyone physically in the premises of their own house. I got disturbed a couple of times and legged it. And stealing people's belongings and ruining their lives. And
how do you feel about that now? Because that's not really you, is it?
Nah,
like, I don't see you as that kind of character.
I was more thinking that to have get the diamonds and show everyone what I've got.
You wanted to, well, what you were trying to do is impress people.
No, this is a load of bollocks.
Well, it's not a load of bollocks when you put it into context. You know, you want love, you want adulation, you want people to put you on a pedestal, you want to be seen, you want to be heard, you want to be important, you want to feel valuable. What's the best way to do that when you don't have any mapping for it? I know, I'll go out there and I'll do things that impress people that are like me.
Yeah.
But obviously that ends in prison. So it's like a really crap way of doing it. But ultimately, it's not like you would have been able to, again, remember I said earlier about prefrontal cortex, planning, logic, organisation, analysis. You just haven't even developed that by the time you're 16. It takes until about 25, sometimes 27 for men, to develop that analytical, logical planning. So no wonder you weren't very good at it, leaving handprints everywhere. You just weren't being logical. No, you were just trying to fit in.
Consequences wasn't.
And also, I think you were getting the dopamine hit. I get the impression.
The adrenaline of the
you get the adrenaline, you get the dopamine, and that's exciting. You know, life outside of that for you wasn't very good, so you were just chasing excitement.
And the excitement in the prisons, and then from the low categories to the high categories, and mixing it with all all the killers and all the and then being institutionalized, obviously. I was going to be the master at all those places because the graduation between all of that, you'd have to be really nifty to pull the wool over my eyes.
How did you get on with them?
No, they felt sorry for me or they loved me, but I got to be the only man in history that done everything wrong, and they all looked after me. So I got.
What is that about though? What makes you different? Because obviously in prison, it's not always like a walk in the park, is it? If you get on the wrong side of somebody, your life could be hell. You could be really badly hurt.
But I think it's Ella that. The kamikaze pilot.
Yeah. I
hope to die. So you're dangerous, man, if you don't want to live.
Yeah.
And then now I feel sorry. Everybody used to give me, no one really likes me taking drugs. Some did to keep me in the mix of the jungle and the mix up on this side and that side and playing that one off against that one and not paying no one and living on the edge every single day. It got worse and worse as the years went by.
Yeah.
The more dangerous the situation, the more dangerous I became.
But that, I think, there's a part of me that's listening to your story from early on going, I think there was a dopamine issue early on for you. So dopamine is reward and motivation. Yeah. And I think because of some of the traumas, that complex PTSD that you might have developed as a result of those traumas, it probably affected the physiological side. It's not so easy to say of your brain. And I think what happened was the structure of the dopaminergic cycle meant that you couldn't produce neurotransmitters in the same way. So the best way for you to feel alive...
That go from there to there.
Yeah.
To there.
Keep moving, keep it exciting.
To have lived. I can't believe that from the 4 elements to be released from institutions, to then go back, to then eventually take drugs. And then, so you're doing bad things against people, you're using the money to do bad things against yourself, and then you got to go through prison where you're being taken away from the things that you hold so dear, so you fought at the time, but you're in jail now again with everyone. He's all right and that one's all right, and it becomes a light bit of work for me and easy to do.
And also, it's normal. It's normal. It's so familiar for you to be, remember from 10 years old, you're in children's homes, you're in institutions, you're in detention centres. So there's never been a sense of this is safe.
No.
all your life you've moved and moved and moved and moved.
And people have come and gone.
Yeah, and you've chased excitement. So going to a new prison, although it wouldn't be on paper exciting, it's a new challenge. It's a new risk. Dopamine, adrenaline, that's all you've ever known. Your system is set up for that. And so it's really difficult for someone to go, well, couldn't you just stop? Who wants to go to prison? If that's all you know from the age of 10, and before the age of 10, you've already been in foster care and you've witnessed your dad being, violent towards your mum. Your mum's got an addiction problem herself and she's escaping. It's not like you've ever known anything that's normal, whatever normal is. You've never experienced that. So this is your normal. Prison, institutions, being around scary people. This is all you've ever known.
I know.
It's ingrained.
So it became easy for me.
Became not just easy.
Because I knew what you was thinking.
Yeah, it's efficient actually, because remember the brain body system is designed to survive, and we will find the most efficient way to survive. So what do we mean by that? Well, efficiency is familiar. I know where I'm going. I know exactly what to do.
And what I want.
Yeah, and that's what you did. Yeah.
I don't know how to get it.
Yeah. So it's efficient. So why are you going to do anything outside of that? You haven't got the mapping for it. You haven't got the development for it. All you've got the development for is running, excitement, burgling, going back into an institution, new challenge, new place, new people. You don't know what it's like to have stability.
I know they used to come for me. Certain officer says, you've tore this thing to pieces. He goes, you need another challenge now. It's getting boring for you.
True story. That's true, isn't it? You probably did get bored really quick.
And then, it's just got the categories, the prisons, and the time got longer, and I started to lose all my time. The last 3 sentences, 8, 12, and 8, I served every day of those.
Wow. What was that like when you hear 8 years, 12 years? Well, it
didn't, considering in the 80s, it was more 3s and 4s and do 2/3 and what you lose. But I think I just threw in the towel. It was all I amounted to, but I was thinking it's weird how your brain doesn't know. And when I look back, such a big wide world and so many different things and different ways of doing things. But
you didn't know. You went the efficient route of familiarity.
Yeah, but it was never proven that I was going to stay out or win the whole.
No. I mean,
how can you do something so many times with the same result? And then
do you know what it's called? It's called repetition compulsion. Freud came up with that theory.
I used to read him.
Yeah. And he came up with a theory of repetition compulsion. We do the same things over and over again in the hope that it will be corrected. But actually, it's the definition of insanity, isn't it? Do the same things over and over again. Get the same. Yeah. But ultimately, don't forget this. Remember I said it earlier on.
You work out that like you don't have to do it that way.
Yeah, you don't have to, but no one was teaching you that. So you dismiss it
because it ain't worked.
Yeah, remember it's efficiency.
But how many times with addiction, with all that, you think you didn't even really like doing it?
Okay, but you know this because you've read a lot. And my listeners will know this because I've said it in almost every episode. So they're bored stiff at this point. This is where they all switch off and go, oh God, here she goes again.
Yeah, but you've got to, though.
You've got to because you get different people.
Things, because I've never had it explained to me like this. Maybe you should have been my counsellor when I was younger.
Well, this is why we're doing the podcast, because I want people to hear it. Yeah, I want people to hear it, and I want you to be that voice that helps people to understand themselves. Because I can't tell your story, but someone listening who knows someone like you might go, listen to this. Your son keeps doing this. Listen to this. This guy has a similar story, and that can change someone's life, Samson. That's why we do this.
Always tell someone, because I'm good at spotting when there's difficulties in people.
Well, of course you are, because you know it inside out.
Some things I miss, right, and I go like that. Then I turn around and I go, because sometimes I'm too fast. Thinking it just because someone says they're all right.
Yeah.
It don't mean that they are. And I go, yeah. No, I go like that.
Are you?
But you look different.
Yeah.
There's something. You've got to tell me something. I'm the worstest one for that.
Well, that's a good thing. But that's a good thing. There's nothing bad with that at all.
Because you don't like to, when you're a kid, you don't like to tell.
Well, no, because you're scared.
It's not really fair, is it?
No.
But yeah, so the journey, it went on and on and on, and shorter periods, longer periods in custody, no life skills, no life experiences, no relationships.
We are aligned. We both thought the same thing.
And then obviously, then after all those years in the high security prisons, meeting everybody that was anybody that was ever had to be met. It's true, I idolised some of them. I wanted to be like some of them from starting out as a burglar and a bit scared to do that, and then fancy myself as a bit of a Pink Panther and raffles and whatnot. Identifying with that label. We know we wasn't a good one. No matter, you had some good prizes now and again. Well, where was you? You never done nothing with the money. So everybody lost out, more the people that lost it, because you did it all for nothing.
Yeah.
But then I graduated to violence inside and
I can't imagine
looking
that.
at bad men and walking with weapons every day, because
Wow.
there's some dangerous people.
Well,
there.
yeah, of course there is. You have
And
to
I
be.
always duck and dive and
Yeah.
like to swerve things, even though I might be conning, being deceitful, the gift of the gab, and doing it all that way. But then every so often, you're going to meet someone that's not really going to fall for your bullshit.
Yeah.
But then when it really got serious, then I wouldn't have no choice but to pull out a weapon.
What?
Because either you let them do it. I think I found it easier to deal with, not because a lot of the men that I met, so-called gangsters, they're not really, they're pretty normal, but they ended up in gangland and killed a fellow gangland rival, and fights. This is what that life brings.
Yeah.
With all of it,
Yeah.
with the egos, and I'm not going to lose, and well, I'm going to try harder. I know you, because there's always somebody that will go a little bit further,
It's
right,
so
and take
sad.
it to the extremes.
Yeah.
But then you meet the evil lot,
Yeah.
the serial killers,
The psychopaths.
the ones that kill women, kill children,
Yeah.
but they're not on normal location most of the time. But I responded by way of violence towards those much easier than,
Of course.
because I knew what they only the way that they fought,
Yeah.
and the way that I knew that you chose your victims carefully, and they were vulnerable targets, and you can't be much of a man. And though they can look intimidating with their presence and their eyes and everything, I often believe that if you did it the way you did to your victims, the way I used to look at things, people in there, is that if the way that you did your crimes, I'm not going to give you a chance either. I ain't. I won't do it to normal people, and I won't really feel threatened. And
No.
it's been proven in history.
Yeah.
I've had all kind of things happen to me, and I start laughing, and it doesn't really bother me. Especially being slapped by a woman, or water thrown over me, cold water and things like that, and being told off. And that's not really an issue for
Well,
me
that's
to
comedy.
get angry.
That's comedy
for me,
for
it's
you.
not because all the other stuff.
Yeah.
It's really, I'm not really going to get upset
No.
by somebody out here telling me, which is why I knew that, why I've stayed out 5 years and I haven't committed a crime, and I'm getting used to, and I was more suited to the outside world than the inside. But when you know that someone's done things in a certain way,
Of course.
and they're going to go all the way, you haven't got no choice, because you either lie down and let them do it,
Of course.
and you be one of their victims,
Yeah.
or you go, well, no, I know exactly what you're going to do, so I'm going to do it first.
Well, this is where we've got to remember the way the brain develops is in 3 stages. So you've got your reptilian brain. So the back and the middle develop first. And then I've mentioned the front loads of times, that prefrontal cortex. But the prefrontal cortex gives us the humanness. The other 2 parts of the brain are more animal. And I think in situations like military, where there's, danger all the time, prison, where there's danger all the time, you see the animal side of human nature more than the humanness of human nature.
Yeah.
And in those situations where you've got serial killers and psychopaths and rapists and child killers, it's going to bring out the animal in everyone. You're going to see less human and more animal. That's why it can be a violent place.
If I'd have been a bigger boy when I was younger, I had more skills, I would have rather gone in the army, me personally.
Yeah, well, that would
I'd
probably
rather
be good for
serve
you.
the purpose because of the adrenaline. And
Yeah, but you're serving a purpose now, Samson, because you are paying. You're paying it forward. And I'm not saying anything against military. I know lots of military people and respect them.
Yeah.
But I'm
They
saying
suffer
to you,
too,
don't. Yeah, they do. But I'm saying don't think I would have served a purpose, because your time is now.
Okay.
Your time is now. It's later on in life that you're serving your purpose. Everything is meant to be the way it is, so that you get to where you're going the way you're meant to. So never dismiss your serving your purpose. You're doing it now, and you're doing it with wisdom.
I'm happy in some respects. The 5 years without committing one crime.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing.
And that not only that, is to where I was looking at it from before, because remember I died on the last sentence as well, paralysed.
Well, we're going to talk about that.
I broke. They said I'd never walk or use my hands again, touching something that I shouldn't have done. And from considering that I thought all was lost, to have grabbed a little bit of life later on in life.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I'm pretty pleased with that.
Tell us about that incident, because that's quite a big one. You almost die, and then
after I served the whole of the sentences, I had coming to my last sentence. I asked someone for something to smoke, and they rolled it for me. And I said, yeah, because I was on a recall to prison, like I just served an 8, done most of it, and then got released. And I got recalled straight away, as usual, to serve the remainder with just breaching license conditions, not even crimes. And I wanted to pass the time like I normally did in there and smoke something.
What was it?
They're saying it might have been spice, but I just wanted something to put me to sleep. So I took 2 puffs.
So
I dived from all the way up there and thought I could fly, and died straight away and paralysed on the spot.
How high did you dive?
I stood on the like a bunk bed, but I stood up high.
And then fell on your head?
And dived straight through and broke. I got the same injuries as Superman, Christopher Reeves.
What?
Cervical 3, 4, 5, spinal fracture.
Because, have you watched that documentary, the Superman one? A great one for everyone to watch if you haven't watched it. His son mentions that if the injury had been half an inch to the...
That's what they said to me.
Yeah.
They said on paper,
yeah,
the hospital is in there.
Yeah.
It says you've got the same identical injuries.
But it's just the placement of that injury.
Yeah,
so it's half...
an inch to the side.
Yeah.
But I remember being on the floor. After I died, the whole cell was covered in blood. It was 12 o'clock at night.
Oh, my God.
So the cellmate had to press the doorbell, and they took an hour to get me out of the cell. And then when I got to the gate...
An hour?
An hour.
What were they doing?
I don't know, but I was trying to fight it. I must have been in shock, but I couldn't move. Right? So, and then when it got to the gate, Ella, they couldn't open the gate to get out to the hospital. So I was an hour waiting there. And while I was dying or in the coma, I heard the lady saying, it's my first night on duty ever, and he's going to die.
Oh,
but I remember hearing that, but I don't know what I was thinking. But then I woke up in the hospital in intensive care for 3 weeks, and they said, look, no, you won't be able to walk or use your hands ever again.
It's amazing, and here you are literally...
That's what that was when I had that little talk with God, and when I was lying there, all the prison officers were there, no handcuffs. So I'm lying there, and you could see one of them was there because I had a fight with a prison governor a week before the injury. So I wasn't really the fondest
they didn't,
of that time.
Yeah, you weren't
so they were
loved.
kind of glad, like I was like paralysed, and they were going back to the prison saying, see, bad man, look, he's paralysed now, old Superman himself, he ain't going to never get up now. So I was looking at one of them, and then I was speaking to God, and I was thinking, I was saying, well, I only asked him one question. I said, well, is that it then for me? But I could hear someone laughing. He goes, well, you got out of everything else. And then I looked at them, they said, look, you won't be able to. I said, no, I've spoken to him already, I will be getting back up. They go, yeah, all right.
I love this so much.
That's what I'm telling you.
Is that
and
it?
he told me, you just make sure you never, and I kept to my word, I never committed another crime or harm to anybody ever again. But I still went back to the demons, drugs, and then the alcohol, when that was the thing that killed me. See what I mean? So I'm very disappointed that I disappointed him.
Yeah, but don't forget.
But that's why I'm glad I'm raising the bar now.
You are raising the bar.
And I'm going to sit up. Yeah.
But look, from the point of what I do for a living and neurobiology,
yeah,
addiction is not a simple case of, oh, you could have just stopped.
No.
If it was that simple,
no.
Look, let me be clear for people that have got addictions that are listening to this, because what I don't want is for us to minimise your strength and your ability to bounce back from what is a disease, because addiction is a disease. And what I mean by that is the neurobiology. So 3 main neurotransmitters I want to mention here for everybody listening. Dopamine, which I've said is reward and motivation. Serotonin, which is your happy hormone, your happy chemical. And then also GABA-glutamate. Now, GABA-glutamate's got a lot to do with anxiety and helping dopamine to regulate, and also helping you to feel more sort of confident and socially confident as well. When we drink alcohol, it alters the neurobiology. When we take drugs, it alters the neurobiology. It allows us to feel either present, or it allows us to feel more comfortable. It allows us to escape our pain. It allows us to put things in a box. It allows us to just be whatever we want to be, other than in the constant battle of our psychology. So I'm not saying it's an excuse for doing bad things.
No, I'm going to cover something else. But
I'm just saying it's not that simple to go, oh, I'm disappointed in myself.
No, exactly. I agree with that, Ella.
Yeah.
But then how come I could manage with everything much easier when I was clean?
I think it's
And I'm happy, and there's nothing that bothers me there.
Because
and I
whilst
process everything in the way that
Well, yeah.
I can't if I'm going to drink or take
But you
drugs.
don't know that before you're clean. Remember, your life is the efficiency and
Chaos.
the familiar. Yeah.
Hectic.
Yeah. So
Madness. But really, there was nothing to change.
Yeah. You didn't know life could be better and you were escaping pain. The way you narrate your story, because you've told your story 1,000 times, because, you've been on the circuit and doing this for a while. Obviously it's the same way when I tell my story. It's bang, 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 fact after fact after fact after fact. But the reality is that your body keeps the pain. Your body stores the trauma. Your body is cellular.
You get used to being sad and it's familiar.
It's familiar.
To be in that dark, Lady Macbeth, Temple of Doom.
Correct.
They're all alone in the dark.
Yeah.
You hate yourself and you don't deserve nothing.
Yes.
But the feeling is easy to deal with because you're used to it and you liked it.
It's cellularly mapped.
You believe that it's something that is all right.
You're programmed
to feel
that
like,
way. Yeah.
It's really...
It's now, but how come it's so much better here and I didn't do it? You had no idea. You hadn't had this experience before. You had to go to a place where you needed to fight.
The longer that I've been out, even though not being a criminal, old behaviours in certain ways, but then you get to, because like going back to school again, you missed all your teens, you missed all your 20s, you missed all the growing up stages, where's risky, who's all right. I thought everybody was all right when I came out. Now I'm realising you don't have to be a criminal to be a bad person.
No, I mean... That's the
some
truest
wicked
sentence.
People out there. And I've let them in and I'm thinking to myself, God, but I still developed the attitude that I always had. And that was that, whatever, man. You know what I mean? I used to forgive many times. Now I just say, you know what, okay, it's no point. But I won't hate you for it. It doesn't really matter to me. Look at the speck in my own eye for the things that I did. But I won't be as easy going as I have been year after year now of being out. Now I have to make sure that I'm all right first. The fundamentals that I didn't know. Lifestyle. You have to do what works for you. You can't put yourself in a mess. Just because you're not a criminal no more, you still got to have a little bit of love for yourself and do things in a manner that's going to have your best interests at heart.
On that note though.
Because then you strive more, you can help more, you become even more loving, even though I've been down and out in this time, a couple of times, moments of brilliance, major TV platforms and everything going well, nothing to really be upset about. But again, like you said,
it's in your body.
It's in the
It's not in your. It
doesn't make it in the end. I get what you mean.
Yeah, 95% of your brain body system is unconscious. Only 5% is conscious. So you're consciously happy, but 95% of you brain body system is storing the trauma, storing the pain, storing the fear, storing the anger.
So have I ever processed what happened to me then properly as a little boy?
Do you think you've processed it?
I read up on it and I joined the dots of where the emotional disturbance and the emotional shock pre-puberty came from. I read it in Jung somewhere.
Yeah, Carl Jung.
Freud, I kind of liked a little bit, even though they called him names. I think he's got the sexual element with certain things as a real factor. You don't have to talk about it and people can say what they want.
Yeah, spot on.
Your first thoughts and feelings doesn't mean you act out on those things.
No. Because we all have those intrusive
strange.
thoughts.
You think, what am I thinking that for?
Yeah, everyone has that.
You just have to right-size things.
Yeah,
put things into perspective.
Yeah.
A lot of people are in denial.
Yes.
But I won't be in denial. When you're in denial with yourself, you can't move forward. And for me, taking responsibility for my actions, for my crimes. That's another reason why I dealt with prison easy, because it was me.
Well, even if you don't
they're
use...
grumbling bastards in there, man. When they've done it and and you're moaning about what you did. And
that's victim mentality.
Victim mentality.
Whereas you've been able to take accountability, responsibility.
I punished myself even more because I thought I was the one that did. Because when things, I don't know how you would be able to break that down to me, Ella, would be that how come I made things worse of myself and made myself do more time for what the crimes are valued up to by losing all my time in there, and that I'm punishing myself now for things that I believed that when I was little, but really it wasn't even really my fault when I get older.
Okay,
so I gave myself much more punishment than what the courts did.
Yeah. Well, what is self-harm? Self-harm is a repetitive behaviour that we do to ourselves, whatever that is. It doesn't have to be cutting.
That sinking feelings familiar when the door slams and you think,
yeah, but
just put your feet up. It's the same old.
It's the same old. It's familiarity.
Nothing you can do about it. Just lie there and here we go again.
But also, let me say this, because you said about learning to love yourself. So to answer your question, this is an important part. Love is an energy, but it's also an experience.
Yeah.
When we lack the experience of love, we can often suppress the energy of love. So we're all born with that.
Yeah.
We're all born with the higher energy of love. But if we don't have the experience of love, go back to cellular mapping. We won't map it into our cells, into our heart, into our bodies. So what happens is we feel devoid of love. Yeah. When we're devoid of love, it's easy to harm ourselves because that's all we've ever known.
But it's a bastard thing, all that institutionalization, because you don't know how other species is, women.
Yeah.
So then I was saying things that didn't mean it in the way that it was being said, because I'm so used to talking to men on the landings.
Yeah.
But it's just so strange that in the last year, I've learned, no one's taught me, Ella.
You've just had to learn it
I've
organically.
learned to, don't say that to her. Yammy, what are you saying, them silly little jokes? Just keep your fucking mouth shut. And just think, it's not a play, because you learn things from behaviours. But you got to remember what you're saying could have a serious effect. And even though the way you mean it ain't the way, but it's how other people take it. But these are the things, the skills and the things you don't get to learn them. But it doesn't mean that you can't. No. So I always say, when they run into me with their problems, there are certain men, and you hit her, and you did this, and you repeated it. And I'm telling you, listen, why didn't you just restrain her while she was attacking you? Because you were strong enough too. You don't have to punch the fucking shit out of her, do you? You don't have to hold her down. You know. What do you
think that is, though? Because for me, that's someone that doesn't have an impulse control. They've not learned.
Then you've got to, for me, these fundamental moral things, but then I had difficulties that they didn't have. But at the same time, what I'm saying is having to learn myself from experiencing life on the outside.
Correct.
Now, what you didn't really like yourself doing and what you did.
Yeah.
And the best way to learn new skills and to develop is by, if you know that you did it wrong, next time you got a chance to do it a little bit better.
We have to practice the
self-control. No, you've got to have the self-control.
You've got to practice
those
the pause.
Circumstances when you've done it with the same. It's the same as committing crime.
But this is what you're learning now, because you just said it a minute ago, and this is what a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
Where they've got a lack of impulse control, they don't stand back, take a breath, and pause before they take action. That lack of impulse control, that could be a personality disorder. It could be chemically, with drugs, alcohol. Mostly when men beat women up, they are under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. Yeah. And, some people aren't. But let's just say the ones that are chemically induced, they're not able to practice the pause because they've lost that neurotransmitter. Remember I said about the neurotransmitters, how important they are. Yeah. They're not working properly under the influence. So we're unable to be the way
you can say some horrible things when you're pissed.
Of course you can.
I have done as well, but I've been in some fierce states and deluded and over, but in my mind I think you just can't go that far.
Well, then
and just walk out or sulk or do whatever you're doing.
But remember,
mine. I'm used to dealing with mine on my own in a cell where I can, where you do, because I'm not used to doing it in the way some of them are, I suppose, out here, but still no excuses.
But it's all conditioning. I'm not excusing anyone's violent behaviour by any stretch of the imagination, but
do you immediately feel, when confronted during my crimes, disturbed in people's premises, and I get told off, or I see the significance of pulling out a gun on a robbery. Yeah. I've had a couple of people get really scared. Yeah. And I just put it back away. Yeah. Because when you're faced with the other person looking frightened, it becomes real. Yeah. Never mind swaggering in there like you're the greatest thief and you're going to do it all calmly. Yeah. And you're thinking, well, just act it and do it. And but you don't want to harm anyone, but you're going in, and then all of a sudden it's in front of you. Someone breaks down and they're crying. And then, I always believe that if someone's crying and they're really frightened, that no matter what state you're in, you don't continue.
Unless you're a psychopath.
Is that what it means? No, you don't. Well, you can't. If someone's saying no, don't. Even criminals, if I got into a fight and I got the first punch in and they said no more, I'd think...
Yeah, but you're not a psychopath. That means you're not a psychopath. A psychopath has no remorse. They don't function with any humanness.
Well, there's a lot of them out there then.
There is a lot of them out there. Psychopaths, sociopaths, narcissists, they don't have the same programming as you. So that's what I'm saying. You're very different because you've been, institutionalized for the 40 years. You've had a really difficult, but you haven't developed that narcissistic, sociopathic, psychopathic triad of dark character traits.
It's horrible seeing people. They're not vulnerable.
Yeah, because that's you've still got a good heart and a lot of this is what I was trying to say before. When you say, how can you not stop? Well, they're a psychopath. They don't have remorse and they don't have humanness.
Can ladies be like that too? Then?
Oh, absolutely.
You always gave them the benefit of the doubt. But
Myra Hindley, there's a few...
I'm talking about in general ladies without being criminals.
Oh, but yeah, I think, the women that have got...
Because I always stuck up for them. But I think sometimes they're doing some... And a lot of men have come up to me in recent times and said, listen, Uncle Yammy, I'll get you. You're always they phone you and they say, listen, they're doing this and he's doing that. But you shouldn't get involved because what you don't realise is that they're doing it to them too. But I'm saying... Yeah,
okay, so...
And then they go back to him and then I think, well, what's the point in coming on the white horse to save people? It doesn't really make no sense.
People have got to sort themselves out like you've done. But ultimately, women can be narcissists, women can be psychopaths, women can have borderline personality disorder, women can be sociopaths.
Yeah, they could be, yeah.
And we don't talk about that enough, that women can also be the problem. And we go, men shouldn't do this and men shouldn't do that. But at the end of the day, we're all human. So some people react in a very human way.
That's right. Attitude is everything, isn't it? Yeah. Because when you see, because I used to take things so seriously and to heart when one thing's said, like in the heat of the moment when they say it to you and I think, never talk to you again. Yeah. But I was saying, Samson, it's too extreme to just never talk to her again. Yeah. And then you learn as time goes on that it's really run of the mill. It's not really the end. Don't really worry. She didn't really mean it. She just said it at that time. You've just got to right size it. I mean, there's different levels to this thing. I mean, if someone says that they love you and then you find them cheating with somebody the next day and all that after everything that they've told you, then that's a real hurtful experience. But it still wouldn't make me go, right, I'm going to react this way. In fact, I'd laugh at you both and I'd definitely wouldn't talk to you ever again. Yeah, and you'd go and look after yourself. Because I'm glad that I got to see it.
Yeah.
That would be the best. But as you just said, when you're emotional, when you love, and when it's really thing. But I can't remember having that absolute feeling since I was a little boy. Yeah. When I loved someone and I didn't have an element of control.
Yeah.
Where I thought, I love her. And then you react and you might have done a wrong thing, but when you're older, there's no excuses for men.
I don't know. I think, look, there's no...
Women, ladies, they're all probably... Well, no, anyway, but we don't want to go off subjects.
But it's quite an interesting thing, though, because I don't think that we can ever just blame men for everything and say, well, he's...
I do.
Yeah, because
They was horrible bastards, and I don't really.
But actually, that brings us to a point, because you said, I don't know if it was before we started to record, that actually your relationship with women is a good relationship because you felt safer with women and, you felt more loved, I guess. But then you
take after praying, being institutionalized, after missing all my childhood where I was a little sweet boy and I used to like the cuddle and everything. Then I turned into dreaming about it in there. Why couldn't I have just been that boy, that little, where I was a lover boy, and then you turn into an animal on a beach, you don't even know what it feels like after 30 odd years. Yeah. But then I'm getting it again now, but then it's great for a minute and then you don't want to be smothered. So which way do you want it?
Yeah.
Like me, I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
And then it's overlapped and you're thinking, but didn't you like all that? Didn't you want all that? It's just different feelings for different things.
But also there's a fear of abandonment. So what happens is as soon as someone gets too close, unconsciously, remember 95%, there'll be a part of you that will stand back and avoid it because you're scared of being hurt. You're scared of being... Again, not having your freedom because your sense of familiarity is on your own.
But yet, when I was little, I think I loved it. I don't know if it was really love, but there was one girl before I went to prison. But every minute of the day, I just wanted to kiss her.
Well, yeah.
But then now, you can kiss her, but then I don't want to do it all day.
No, because who wants?
But you do. But then if you love, but I was hoping from in prison that one day I would get to do that again because it was a good feeling to have had during that time. Yeah. And I was thinking, God, man, he wants to be surrounded by men in there.
Well,
like
God,
that.
yeah. I mean, it's not
like that all them years. And listening to all that shit and Codswallop and all the things that you hear.
Codswallop.
No, but it's true though. Anyway, there's more that we could say on that matter, but I don't want to offend men.
Well, also, I'm sure you and Liam have gone into that in your episode with Liam.
Not really. This is a different kind of...
different vibe.
This is a different interview, Ella.
Yeah, well,
I don't think I've been interviewed by a lady. I've done Young Honey Pile the other day, and she's young. She's 21.
Yeah.
But when I saw her, I thought she was about 12. So I didn't know how to do it, like sitting around the table, because I'm used to doing men, and because I'm doing my presenting like you are now. And it was a different experience for me.
Yeah.
So I had to interview her, but I didn't know so I said, you know what, the best thing to do is just protect her and don't let nothing go in there. So I just got out of it quickly. And then she interviewed me and I was doing all this. I was on the spot. It was a different feeling, Ella, because why? You haven't experienced talking. Everyone's mums and that, they say, Yammy, you say yes to everything.
Yeah.
You can't do that with kids, and she's not a kid, but I'm saying in general.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to say no.
Well, that brings
to
us
them,
to a
and
point.
they know, and they're smart, and they could get anything. And I realised, you know what, you can't be that. Mum says mayhem when you come around here.
Yeah.
Because they know they can get there, but they need the discipline. The mums, they're trying to instill ways and manners and ways of not to do and what to do, and that's their job. It's not my job. The only time I suppose I get serious is when it becomes security. If I've got to walk across the road with them, if I've got to protect like I used to in the cat A's, like I have to make sure nothing happens on my watch, I have to, because many of those behaviours, without being a criminal out here, have been very much the same. If I like someone really a lot, it reminds me of when some of those top tier so-called gangsters say, Yam, can you follow me down to the library? Can you come down to the Muslim? Can you come down to the church? Follow me to education. I've got a feeling something will happen, because they know that I could be sharp. I might not be the hardest man, but reading situations and all that. I said, how many are you going to give me? And they give me a couple of things, what I wanted, and I'll make sure that nothing will happen on my watch, but I will do it naturally in the behaviour way out here. In different, it's so difficult when you do things in certain ways. It's all right not being a criminal no more, but behaviours over a lifetime.
Oh God, they're hard to break.
They're hard because you've done it in the same way all the time, close conditions, walk from there, look around the landing. When I first come out and I used to get past, just stare at.
You're scanning all the time.
Scanning all the time, looking too long at people on buses and trains.
Because you don't realise it's
different. Not like I would on a landing like that. But when I'm drunk, when you get into too much something, you look at it and you think, but it's really dangerous. But in normal walks, I like to, because I'm a bit of a people watcher. I think, oh God, she looks sad. I think, David, you know what I mean? You're trying to, because that's all you could do on the landings.
Yeah, you people
is look
watching.
at to see what's going on and what they're thinking or feeling. And you spend so much time thinking what everybody else is thinking, you forgot what you was meant to be thinking for yourself.
And as a burglar, you'd have had to scan all the time. You'd have had to be totally tuned in. But don't forget neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to rewire. So all these bad habits that you've got over time, they get less and less and less as you practice new skills.
But why then, Ella? If after 40 years of doing it in one way, that I'm aware of how not to do, what to do, even with the life experiences that I could never have had.
Yeah.
And it's going back to school out here and I have to relearn all over again. By being in those situations. Well, then how come when they can't change the way that they do it then? Or why is it then they've been at it all this time, but they're repetitive, in controlling behaviour, obsessive behaviour, all the things that they're doing, and they say, oh, I don't really want to. So why haven't they got the skills then to change it so you don't get the same bad feeling from the stuff that you do to make you feel the same way? Because there are other alternatives to go, right, well, I don't want to feel bad after I say something or do something. So you don't say it again and you try a different way of dealing, because sometimes, like you said, we're just used to reaction and dealing with them saying, listen, shut up or whatever, and go, but if you just go, yeah, and listen, but you won't feel bad when you leave the person. So you find another way of not making somebody feel bad and making yourself feel bad by being horrible or being blah, blah, blah. You say, you learn from whatever made you feel bad. To find a way so that when the same situation arises again, when you leave it, you think, that's better.
Remember,
I feel a little bit better now because I don't leave her feeling bad, and I don't feel bad about making them feel bad. Simple things like that.
It can be very simple, but the thing is, you also have to have someone to guide you through that process sometimes. There's two reasons, really. Neurobiological, so you might need medication sometimes with things like OCD and compulsive behaviours. And then also, if you've been living a life like you have for many, many years and you have a personality disorder or some sort of break in psychopathy or some sort of break in your psychology, you need the teaching, you need the courses, you need the coaching. Not
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
You were really someone I think is very adaptable, very flexible, very resilient.
Yeah.
Some people are not, and that's a genetic or a hereditary thing. It's also, it depends on whether you've developed a personality disorder, because some things need more.
Oh, that sounds right. Because they sent the top shrinks in the country to see me, and they got this mad, bad, sad principle.
Yeah.
And I said, what, am I mad? They said, no.
No.
I said, bad? They said, no.
No.
I
Sad.
said, sad. I said, what do you mean? They goes, because during the vital early stages of the trauma, there was bits of love, other people's mums.
You had
rescued.
something, yeah.
They were things that made you know that there was a little bit of good, and that maybe, you might be right, actually, Ella, that in fact that maybe I wasn't really meant to have gone through, because I wasn't that kind. But then, are you born evil? Are you born bad? Or do you mind? I believe that you might be right, because I didn't really like doing bad things to people, did I?
I think
drugs numbed out the feeling.
Yeah.
So I couldn't feel what they were feeling.
It depends on the trauma. So just to answer that question, because I think it's a really good one. To answer that question, if, say, for example, Jeffrey Dahmer, we know that his mum was taking antidepressants during his pregnancy. We also know that she had lots of difficult behaviour. She was not well.
Yeah.
So the developing fetus would have missed vital parts of brain development. In some children, if the trauma is happening at birth or very, very early on, it really affects the development of their brain. It's right to say the mad, bad and sad theory. It's right to say that if you've had some love, the chances are you'll be out, because it's cellularly mapped, you'll be able to find a way to find that again later on in life. So there's all sorts of factors.
Yeah, because them feelings of goodness and seeing it, because, can I go to the toilet quickly?
Of course you can.
I don't want to mess up this. Oh, God, Ella. Ella, but I'm going to get back. I'll tell you something about those serial killers.
Oh,
and
please.
Why, it don't matter what about the birth stuff and the mums, and what they suffered when they was children, they were one-trick ponies who committed crimes in the same way on the same people.
Okay, we will look forward to that.
It's interesting then, so what you were saying actually was, I've never been diagnosed with anything.
No.
I've never been taking medication.
Yeah.
Or nothing.
Yeah.
They've said that there's fuck all wrong with it.
Yeah, so yours was neglect.
How would that then be?
Well, yours was just neglect and wanting to belong. Yours was just...
Oh, it's just it's just one-way traffic with the badness.
Yeah.
And motivated by emotional...
I think you were neglected. I think there was addiction in your family and emotional dysregulation.
Yeah.
So what then happened was, through that neglect, because your mum couldn't be present because she had her own addiction, your dad was obviously dealing with his own emotions.
Yeah.
I think that you just had a sense of abandonment. I wanted to belong. I didn't have the structure that I needed or the stability that I needed, so I'd do anything to fit in. That's where I think it starts for you.
Right, Ella. Ella, then how can I'll explain it. So when I used to hear songs, like mum's songs, certain songs that used to trigger her running out the door to go drinking.
Yeah.
And when I used to go through all these emotional developments, and now I reached the stage of knowing that I used to have triggers of hearing songs and associating it with
that.
And then going to steal as well, that songs that reminded me from.
Yeah.
But it's really silly.
But it's not
But
silly.
you like the feeling of you playing that record when you used to go burgling, when you used to go thing, or where he was dancing to it, she was dancing, your mum used to play it. It reminds you of sad times.
Yeah, of course.
But yet you I was reacting on emotional things, that kind of stuff, thinking it meant that I but it's a really weird.
Do you know what though, Samson?
Reacting on real.
Do you know what was really, from the second that I've met you, it's very, very clear and very obvious to me. If you were to be diagnosed with anything, and I could pretty much say this with 100% certainty, you would have ADHD.
Yeah.
So that is to do with dopamine regulation, which makes sense for the risk with the burglaries. The emotional side of you, not being able to regulate emotion, being very impulsive, hyperactive, all of those things you fall into. So that's very different to the darker triad of personality disorders like psychopathy, narcissism, sociopathy, borderline personality disorder. They're very, very different. So when you're thinking about you're thinking, but can't they just stop? You've got ADHD. I've got ADHD. It's a very different thing.
So I'm always in a state of, not all the time, but I could be overly happy and things, but so I'm not recognising anything bad.
Yeah,
but is that because I've shut it all out? But how come then sometimes I'm as cool as a cucumber then, Ella?
Because when there's chaos with dopamine, because we don't retain dopamine, we don't keep enough. When you do get a certain amount of dopamine, it actually creates a sense of calm in the brain, which is how we should feel if we were neurotypical. The ADHD subject's a whole different subject, but you're calming chaos because you're getting the dopamine that you need. But also you're able to at times regulate, but most of the time you're either all or nothing.
Yeah.
So you're ADHD through and through. And if you'd have known that as a kid, it's like without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, but am I?
Yes.
But how come then some days I don't say nothing at all, but I'm happy?
Because you don't have to be hyperactive all the time. It's all or nothing.
Oh, it's all or nothing.
Yeah. And also with
because every time they do my pulse and everything, they say you got athlete's pulse and everything's just so calm and but then depending like now during the interview, calm, and then when something triggers something.
Yeah, you're 0 to 100. It's all or nothing. Everything's fast. Now we only have 10 minutes left.
All right, darling.
So you want to tell me something about these serial killers, because we've talked about the difference between the dark sort of psychological problems and someone like you that just fell down into the wrong path.
So hold on, well, before we do that then, remind me of what the id, the ego and the superego, in what order it works. Because I always do things based on probability, possibilities and the likelihood, and then I get it there and then I get there and then I join it and I think the sensible decision will be that, right? So I come up with a lot of answers. But then I go, there's the ego side, because I was Yammy and I was in there and I was the jungle and the mix up and I came, surviving through. Then I draw back and I get lost. I still get little lost moments where you get wrapped up in that old bollocks feeling from back in the day. Again, what fucking Yammy? You was a bloody idiot. Yeah. But look, but in saying that, what I was saying to you earlier, Ella, was that with the ones that I detested, obviously, as well as detested myself, the serial killers, the ones that take on vulnerable targets. Yeah. Same crimes all the time, and they want to be diagnosed as in Broadmoor. Yeah. But the only things that I got arguments with some of these doctors and things and that is if it was so that they were mentally insane, right? How is it then all the victims are all the same kind? Yeah. Either fueled by sexual desires and hatred of women, or both. Yeah. Or children, serial killers of ladies. Yeah. One way, they're all the crimes are similar. So if you was mentally insane, surely you'd be doing it. You would just be doing it to anybody and everybody. Well, no, because mental insanity doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have intelligence. So the people that they enjoy that victim. Yeah. It's a bit like, again, go back to the animal. They enjoy a particular type of victim. It's about enjoyment. It's not about insanity. Well, then how can we'll be talking about the pleasure principle then? Yeah. Yeah. Freud describes it. Yeah. Perfectly, but how can you be insane then? Well, the insanity isn't about it. The insanity is basically saying that you don't have the ability to feel remorse. You don't have the ability to analyse. You don't have the ability to plan and organise in a way that's human. But you still know what you're doing to get the pleasure principle. Because you're in the animal mode. You're not in the humanness. So we have animal planning. So an animal will not think to plan, but it will stalk. So a psychopath, for example, they look very human because they've studied humans and they mimic humans, and it's all mimicry. They don't actually know how to feel. They have to learn how to behave. So an animal just responds without remorse and it will rip up another animal without thinking about it. Yeah. The psychopath understands that doesn't work in society, so they have to behave and study other humans to know how to behave. But they're actually driven in the same way as an animal. So they find a prey that they enjoy and they continue with that. So if it's a child or if it's a woman, they get pleasure out of it. And it's usually power. It can be, sort of enhanced by sexual power because they're getting all of that animalistic movement in their body in terms of neurobiology. But they're pretending to be human, really. They're not. They're very animal. So they're not, you're saying, but they're not knowing that they're doing anything wrong.
Well, they do know it's wrong, but they don't care. That's where the insanity comes in. They don't care. They're not in the same mind as us. We care. We have remorse. We would feel guilt. They don't have any of that.
Yeah, but then there is, I suppose, sociopaths that are the same. It wasn't me, or denial. And
Yeah.
when
They
they
don't
go
care.
into the Crown Court on trial, they've told you that they've already
They
done
don't
it.
feel it.
But when they get found guilty, they go, "Nah, man, I didn't."
Yeah.
But I said, "You told me already that you did it."
Yeah.
So you were just trying to get off it. But now you haven't got off it.
Yeah.
Now you're feeling hard done by.
Yeah. Because again,
But if you would have won, you would have been going,
go and do it again.
I got one over you.
They don't have empathy. They don't have remorse. They don't have humanness. They are driven as animals.
Mm.
They just act like humans because they've studied how to behave. They don't feel it.
That's what I used to say. They used to say about the serial killer Belfield, the one that I had a fight with, that I'd done a sneaky one on him, killed women. But when I used to look into his eyes, I used to think, you're an effing coward, you are.
Yeah.
See, other people in their certain presence, you think that they're gonna, but I used to do, and you used to look down. I used to see, strange, innit?
Yeah.
Because you know what? When you can undo, when you meet, not likewise,
Yeah.
but you bump into, I know what you're about.
Yeah. And you see it.
It makes them insecure too.
Yeah, of course it does, because they're
Because
vulnerable.
that's why you take on the targets that you know really
they're
that
powerless.
you know you're not going to lose.
Yeah, because they're powerless.
To be
and
a
that's
proper
why they
man,
enjoy
you've
it.
got, if not saying to commit crime or whatever,
Yeah.
but you would have had to have been able to risk being shamed and not going your own way and not taking rejection and loss and love and all those things to heart. We're all going to be pained by stuff. I know that, Ella. But then, after a period of time, if you just let it lie, and because it's like getting something hurts you one day, I leave. Sometimes I don't react no more. I wait because then I lie down. I've learned the art of doing 2-3 days, and then you think, it doesn't mean that at all. This
is what I mean about pause. Yeah.
About pause
Yeah.
and make the importance of, all right, cool. Hey, I'm not going to do anything just yet.
No, pause.
Just wait and see, right? And then it becomes apparent.
It does.
It's like when you're going to work and going on TV, you think, don't go straight up there, wait.
Yeah.
Because there's so many other ways to do it better.
Of course.
You know what I mean? And doing, seeing things, because you could do it spontaneous, and then afterwards you go, I should have done it. There was another bit you should have done it. There's so many different ways, and there's no real answers to this life, but I'm not about to overthink it no more. All I know is that at the moment, I prefer just being me, and I'm really happy. And that I'm participating in normal human life. That's it.
Yeah. Well, what are you doing next? Because we're wrapping it up, and I'm kind of thinking we've gone through this amazing journey of your life, and we're at a point now where you can pay it forward.
Yeah.
Where are you going? What's the next phase for you?
My next phase is probably, because there's people that have been through worse stuff than me, like you, and there's people that haven't committed crime and taken out, their sadness that's happened to them on other people. Some people suffer alone.
Yeah.
Don't tell nobody. We hope to show other people the way, people like me and you, Ella, you're not alone. We come out.
Yeah.
You come out by letting it out. You're not alone no more with those thoughts that you're holding on to, that there is hope. It wasn't your fault, in the beginning of time, and that there is still a place for you to, because it's only one life, and you got to make the best of what you got and give back and pass on those experiences and learn from, probably, even though I see myself as quite weak with certain things and soft and whatever, and you're probably tougher than me. But
I don't think so. I don't think you're weak.
Oh, I'm a little baby.
No, you're not.
Oh, you wouldn't believe it. Go to belly. I cry. I'm not crying, but I get the upper back.
But that's just emotional. That doesn't mean
No,
you're
but
weak.
I do know what it means when I do
Yeah,
it. Like,
yeah.
anyone that's been around me would tell you, we get the ump if his hair's out of place. But hold on a minute, you didn't mind looking all scruffy and rough a couple of months ago. You just go from one extreme to the other, depending on your true soul and how it really is. But for me, it's more about others, isn't it? And that from your right, I'm all right.
Yeah.
Because I'm all right anyway, if you
Yeah.
get what I mean. So
it's just about connection, building a community and paying it
TV
forward.
channels, motivation, inspiring, making amends, passing on my experiences from all different subjects, letting people know what I was feeling then and feeling now. How did I learn to process this and process that? Can all the courses in the world that those prisons set out, can they stop you from reoffending? I was asking you that the other day. I'm still waiting for your answer.
I don't know if a course alone. I think it's really about the course has to be in place with connection. Those people have to feel seen and heard. And if we're talking about psychopaths, if we're talking about narcissists, those courses probably won't do a thing.
They won't do a thing, man.
But for people
it's
like
all acting and they're ticking boxes that you've got to, and that's ridiculous, really.
Yeah.
I hear how some people talk, and then you get the degree ones that haven't had no life experiences, not being rude or anything, but they haven't been traumatized. They might have, I don't know, but they haven't been involved in criminology. Terrible things haven't really happened to them. Not saying that it should, but they go, well, he did this, he answered that right, he done it. Yeah. But hold on a minute, I used to con and deceive everyone when I used to be a thief.
Exactly.
And pretend and stand there and, while they wasn't looking, nick that and then go and do that. But you appeared like you're all right. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know when people really change? And it has to be, not always, but often.
Say it, go on.
People change when they feel seen and heard and safe.
Yeah.
But also that programming, the reprogramming of the brain. Learning is one thing, but actually reprogramming the subconscious is another. That's a whole brain-based psychotherapy stuff, which I don't know how much they do. EMDR, clinical hypnotherapy. I don't know how much of that they offer in the prisons. I don't think they offer the brain-based stuff, which actually gets deep into the wound.
It's another subject anyway, but it's been brilliant.
It's been brilliant.
How long was that? Was that quite quick?
It's been quite a long one.
It's a different kind of style, kind of interview for me.
Well, I want to say thank you for being here.
Yeah, you too, Ella.
And first time a lady's interviewed you.
Yeah, I think
Apart from your young girl the other day.
No, that don't count. Because I didn't have a clue, honestly. Ella, it's mad, isn't it, when you're being surrounded by... Because you don't know, you think they're... And then you say to them, you're only a little kid. I'm not no little kid.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this has gone wrong.
But I used to think the same.
Yeah.
But it's hard when you do, isn't it? When you get, that's when you know you're getting old, I'm afraid.
I know. But not that you look a day over 25.
No, I know. I just looked in the mirror up there. I'm really happy at the moment.
Yeah, you look good.
Do I?
And I want to say thank you for sharing your energy and your stories.
You too, Ella.
And just paying it forward, because that's what that's what it's all about. So thank you for being here.
We make amends and we pass on our experiences, and we make sure they understand that none of us are perfect.
That's right. We're all flawed.
We're all flawed. But never be in denial. Nobody.
No, take responsibility and accountability.
Take responsibility and don't, because if you start lying to what you're really feeling inside, and I hate people when they go, like, not hate, but when you say, no, look, it was that. No, it wasn't. They swear blind. It wasn't.
They're just not ready. They're not
ready. And you don't want to intrude and say, I disagree with them. Why I got like that?
Yeah.
I'll say I was in the wrong.
Yeah.
And it ain't even me, but I think that's a good quality as well.
Sometimes it's good to just step back and not have the argument and just let them think what they want to think.
Yeah, but we're trying to help them move on. But it's not our place.
It's time.
It's time. And then they come back a week later and they work it all out. And then
they
you
do.
leave them.
You just give them a little bit of love and that goes a long way.
Yeah, that's what I do. I just go like that down the road. I just give everyone, even if I'm not feeling all right, I go, I love you, just take it easy and just be strong and just walk on. It doesn't take much,
It doesn't take much.
But it's better than being on those landings, I'll tell you that.
I bet. And here you are, free, doing your podcast, doing the circus, doing TV, making a difference. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you too. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, darling.